Welcome to Adeptus On-Air, the show where we examine how individuals and companies make decisions that drive their business and personal success. Each week, we connect with notable professionals who pull back the curtain on the industries that Adeptus has been on the cutting edge of for the last 30 years, including music, sports, and entertainment, as well as new emerging markets.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Adeptus On-Air. I am Mike Hoffman, today joined by Anjl Rodee. Anjl, how you doing?
Hello, I am so good.
Good, good. Anjl is a master artist, musician, and professional comedian. Her mission is to inspire wellness through humor, vulnerability, and creative expression. She is the founder of Brushcapades, a creative studio that provides public classes and corporate wellness events. They've worked with some of the biggest brand names in the world, including Microsoft, Google, and Amazon. And Anjl is currently working on her first book, scary name, A is for Aneurysm. And we're going to discuss that because I sure as hell hope that's not the case. But we're going to see where that came about. But I'm guessing that name has your comedian background in play.
I like to think, I hope so.
So I'm always fascinated with, I've talked to a few comedians before, how someone gets into comedy. Because it's obviously, people who get into acting often are in the drama clubs. People who get into music were playing instruments. Sports people obviously played sports from a young age. But comedy isn't something that you generally or join a comedy club or you're in that kind of thing when you're younger. So how did you evolve in that direction?
I definitely was a theater kid, so that was also a thing. But I tended toward gravitating toward the try to be funny in the way I was doing the thing, even if it wasn't a funny role.
Yeah.
I wasn't the class clown. I was very, very shy, but I really loved making people laugh, and that has always been a thing. So when the opportunity arose, I joined Comedy Sports. Are you familiar?
No.
Comedy Sports is comedy played as if it's a sport. It's like Whose Line Is It Anyway, only with two teams and a referee. So
Wow.
that is improv comedy played like a sport, and it's amazing. And I am so biased, but it's in most major cities. I have played there in New York, and it's a lot of fun. So that's where I started. Then I'm also a musician, so I write parodies. And so
like Weird Al type parodies, like that kind of stuff?
Kind of, yeah, like, menopause, it's a thing. So hot child in the city is now hot flash in the city, that kind of thing. Me and the ukulele, we hit the stage as much as possible. Just because it's fun.
I like them. It's funny. I've always enjoyed going to comedy shows where there's a musical component.
Yes, it is just another
And one of the legends who I've seen several times, and I'm dating myself as probably being older than you, is I've seen Robert Klein several times.
Oh, yes.
And he has a song, I think it's about getting a colonoscopy, I believe. And he actually talked about how he actually went to like the board of like colon rectal surgeons and sang it there as like he was, at their national conference and he was invited. But, I kind of like it, or like the Adam Sandlers of the world, where comedy through song is just amazing. And it kind of takes two different talents, and puts it together.
It does. And if you do it right, you can bring a little joy to the idea of a pain point, colonoscopy, or, some of the things that Adam writes about, or menopause. Yeah.
It's funny. You talked about the club or the sport you were a part of, and then you mentioned Whose Line Is It Anyway, which is one of my favorite shows because I am just so amazed with improv.
Yes.
And, it's amazing because to me, there's two aspects of being a comic on stage. And one is, all right, you prep your show and you got this routine and you're going to deliver your 30 minutes of stories, jokes, whatever you want to call them. But then there's what I'll call crowd work.
Yes.
And to me, crowd work is 100%, only not 100% because I'm sure you have some of it in mind, but largely improv where you're kind of feeding off what someone else is telling you.
Yes.
So when you do things like that, what is your area that you enjoy the most and you think you're kind of really thrive with?
I don't do crowd work so much as me work. Whenever possible, I poke the fun at myself rather than other people. So that's the thing. And you do have preloaded things when you're talking to people that if they're going to bring joy, why not bring it back? I say.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there are some people, you go to certain shows, and I probably see a few comedy shows a year where the people, rush to sit in the front because they want to be picked on, they
Yes,
want to be made fun of, and then you have the people who want to sit as far back as possible in the dark corner because they want to just go see a show and not be part of a show.
yes, yes.
So I've always
And
taken the approach, and I'm a pretty nice guy and not want to make someone ever feel bad about themselves. But if you're going to go to a comedy show and you're going to
you
sit next to the stage,
you
don't
chose
cry
that
victim
seat.
at the end that you were picked on. You're putting yourself right in the eye line of that person standing up there. And if Anjl sees you and Anjl wants to talk to you, well, she's not going to talk to someone in row 20. She's going to talk to someone, So to me, good, you set yourself up for that rough time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. That's true. But as a girl, I don't know. I'm sure it doesn't make a difference, but I do try to keep the comedy pretty clean and self-effacing if
Well, you see
possible.
different things, and again, there's joking around with people and then there's insulting people. And I think there's
Yes,
two different ways to do it. And yes, I don't like the ones that are cruel to somebody. I'm not,
yes,
I don't enjoy watching someone be made fun of where it's cruel. I enjoy
right.
watching someone being made fun of in a stereotypical way. So
Yes,
if
yes,
it's a blonde person and you're making a blonde joke, that's not a knock on
yes,
that person. That's a knock on
right.
that. You
Yes,
know,
exactly.
I don't
Yeah,
want you
and
making fun of someone because of their color or their ethnicity, because that's a little more
right.
personal. But something like that, or
Unless you share it, right?
unless you listen,
Right.
you bring it up. Hey, it's all fair game. And that's why
Yep.
you got to really be tight-lipped
Yeah.
on what you want to say.
Or like
So,
I'm Irish. I let the Irish have it.
well, that's
And I
fine.
can because I'm Irish, that
That's
sort of a
right.
thing.
And I'm
Yeah.
Jewish, and I can easily make a Jewish joke. I'm
There you
bald.
go.
Believe me, I make bald jokes all the time. And it used to bother me when I was first going bald, but at this point, there's no hiding it. So you might as well just embrace it and laugh about it.
Exactly.
Why not? Because someone else
Exactly.
is looking at me thinking you're bald, so I might as well accept the fact. Yes, I'm bald. Yeah, and I think I'm killing it right now. So
You are nailing it. You're nailing the ball thing.
I will say this: what I had to do when these podcasts started is this little circle on my head was really big, so I have a light now above my monitor that to put on when I do these podcasts to kind of
Ah,
minimize the effect of my bald head on the lighting.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So see, we
working.
had to make adjustments because I have no
Yeah.
hair.
It's a good life lesson though, isn't it? I mean,
That's right.
you gotta make adjustments as you go along because
That's right.
nothing
This
is
was not an issue 10 years ago.
it's a thing.
Prior to having two daughters, this was not an issue. Now it's become a major issue because I blame them for all of this. So with your comedy, did you spend a point in your career, or you're still doing it, where you kind of did the comedy club circuit, where you were traveling around, or were you kind of staying local?
Local for the most part, but when I would travel, if the opportunity came up, because I have friends everywhere, and so if they're like, come and open, then I would do that sort of a thing. Um,
And where's local for you? Where are you based out of?
I was in Seattle for almost 15 years. I just moved back to my hometown in Wisconsin,
Oh, okay.
so I'm in the middle
The
of
comedy capital of the world, Wisconsin,
oh
of
my
course.
gosh, just north of Chicago though, and that is an improv
Oh,
capital for sure.
second city. I mean, Chicago's,
UCB.
so yeah, absolutely. So do you try to get to Chicago a lot?
I try to. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm really busy with my the art thing, so
Yeah.
I don't get to as much as I used to. But I'm lucky that the my work happens. Oh, I guess everybody does now that I think about it a lot
Yeah.
during the week, and then I can go and play on weekends.
Yeah. So right now, as your career's evolved, the comedy is, I don't want to say taking a back seat, but it's definitely not your top priority right now.
Right,
It's
right.
your business, which we're going to obviously get to,
Yep.
in a little bit. So how did you evolve? So you've created this business called Brushcapades. So first of all,
Yes.
tell us what it is, and then how you kind of made that transition in your life.
Yeah. So what I basically do is teach corporate events about the importance of creativity through the vehicle of painting or sketching. So it's actually probably more TED Talk than it is the art lesson. Um, but that's what it is. I started it back in 2014 when I first heard of paint night,
Yeah.
which is where you go sit in a bar. I thought to myself, what as a an entertainer and an artist, I am uniquely qualified to do that.
Yeah.
So I called paint night to let them know, and they told me I could do it on Tuesday nights at a bar. And I thought, I'm just going to buy easels. So I did. I had never attended one, but I started. And because I was in Seattle, corporate events quickly happened. Amazon is there, Microsoft is there, Google is there, Facebook. And the more people would come in, the more I heard, don't expect much out of me. My third grade teacher told me I will never be an artist. And don't expect much out of me. I only do stick people.
Yeah.
And that kind of became a challenge for me. It's because, no, you actually can do more. You just don't know that you can do more.
Sure.
Because we are all artists, and that is a hard word to own. So that is what I've kind of made my mission in life, is to accept the fact that we are creative beings and we can create stuff, whether it's a better opportunity or a better environment or get around a work problem. It all starts with believing that you can do it.
So that's your message with these
That is my message.
Corporate events, that you're not there to teach them art. You're trying to teach them these messages through art.
I'm so sneaky.
Hey, it works. Now, so talk to me about one of these events. So like, just say, the company's irrelevant, but let's just use one you mentioned. So Facebook. So you go to an event, approximately how many people are there as you're doing your thing?
It can be anywhere from 6 to 200. I've done up to 250 virtually, of course. I've done just over 100 in person.
All right. So let's talk about 100 people in person. So you're bringing supplies for them, or?
Yeah.
So you're bringing supplies. They're at their station.
Yep.
And then talk to me about what happens.
Yeah. They sit and they get a little inside their own head. So I spend 3 minutes doing a bit of an art monologue just to get them laughing a little bit and comfy in their seats and realizing that, if paint hits the canvas, I've nailed this activity. So I take the pressure off first. I give the brushes little names, and then we start going. And I literally teach one brush stroke at a time. The first thing I have them do is get rid of the white of the canvas. That is easy to do, and you can't really mess that up. Blue is happening. This is going great. And then I literally teach one brush stroke at a time. I tell them my favorite brush stroke is the parentheses. So handy. It's just that. And anybody can do that. And we're not making any marks that you didn't learn when you were 5 and learned how to write your name. And when you break that down and then just build it up with knowledge you didn't have 5 minutes ago.
Now, is everyone making the same picture?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what we have, these painting places around here. I forget what they're called. But basically, oftentimes women go with wine kind of thing. It's not a bar. They actually have their own little storefront
like that.
Yeah. It's like a girls' night out, or families do it, and they all kind of leave with the same picture. You see at the end on Facebook, you'll see a family of 10 will all post the same. Like, they'll decide when they go in what's the picture they want to be taught today, whether it's an animal or a rainforest, whatever it may be.
Yep.
Yeah. So now, you kind of direct them. At the end of the day, all 100 people have kind of made the same picture.
Yep.
And you can see kind of all the differences.
Sometimes I design a whole mural, and then it gets broken up this little square at a time. So everybody gets a square that maybe has just 3 lines on it, and they don't know what it's going to be. And they paint it. Sometimes I direct them, this bit will be black, but this one just a light color, and this one just a dark color, whatever you want to paint on there.
Yeah.
And then the end activity is they work together to piece it all together to see what the big image is going to be.
So everyone has a different assignment, and they're basically all a piece of a puzzle.
Yes. Those
That's
are really
neat.
enjoyable. Yeah.
So there's an element to it of team building in addition to your lessons.
Yes. Yeah.
And how long are you spending with them? Like, how long is this? Like a couple hours, or
90 minutes to 2 hours, depending on how chatty the group is.
Yeah. And you also do it now when you're doing it over Zoom. I guess, are they you're telling them what supplies they need prior?
Oh no, I ship it to them. I have branded kits that I send out, that's pretty much what happens. I send out my
very interesting
stuff. Yeah.
So the fact that you're in Wisconsin now, as opposed to Seattle, which is a little more corporate than wherever you are, I'm guessing in Wisconsin. How are you soliciting clients? Is it mostly obviously remote, or are you traveling?
I'm mostly remote anyway, but I do travel. I started traveling after the pandemic happened. When I could get out, I did get out, and I would write to clients that I had in certain places, like, "Hey, I'm coming to Texas," and we'd put something together. I'm going back to Seattle in 3 weeks. I've been back 4 times since I moved back here. And that has been a super enjoyable part of doing this, is getting out and seeing people
Yeah.
in person in different parts of the country.
But when did you, so we talked about you were in drama club and we
Hmm.
talked about your love for comedy
Hmm.
and you said you played instruments. You
Yes.
didn't mention at any point that art was a part of your life.
Oh, art is like literally what I do for a living. So,
I know, but when we talked about early on in your life, you didn't mention that.
I
So
didn't, did I?
no,
But it's always been a thing. So it's not something I ever developed. I was the kid in the second grade that helped a teacher decorate the bulletin boards. It's just always been I always knew I was going to go. I went to art school.
yeah.
That's been my 9 to 5 forever. So my first job out of college was illustrating coloring books for Golden Books,
Oh, fun.
and designing covers for them. I went from that to an ad agency for a bunch of years. Then I worked in publishing, and then I got headhunted into paper plates. You may have eaten off my work.
No, that's you. Of course. I love your plates.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, everyone does.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're delicious. Yeah.
and that and freelance is pretty much what I was doing when I heard of paint night, and just thought that would be a fun thing to do
Yeah.
on weekends. And
Yeah,
it's
I quite honestly, I know you're going to say, well, I have it in me, and I will strongly disagree with you. But I think the part of the reason is, you have certain memories from like elementary school,
mhm,
and you figure how many hours you were there, but how many minutes of memories you have.
mm,
And one of my most vivid memories is in art class, which
yeah,
again was the one elective I didn't like. I loved going to gym. I played instruments, so I liked going to music. And art was the 5th day. I'm like, crap, today's art. And I think it was 4th grade, and we were making, it was a clay project, and we had to make something, a food item. So you had to first make a plate,
mhm,
and then you had to make some food on it. And obviously, looking back, no one's was very good because we were all in like 4th grade. But some people are trying to make like fruit or a pizza, and I can't get my clay to do anything. So me, and again, I wasn't a wise ass kid. I was a very good student, but maybe I've always had a good sense of humor. But grades were also very important to me. I ended up, because it was like the last day doing it, where I had nothing. So I made a brownie, because basically brownie is just taking clay and putting it in a rectangle.
yeah, yeah.
And then I quickly had to paint it. And I first had to paint the plate, but again, not realizing that the other clay should have been on, and I'm painting the plate blue. And as I'm painting it, running out of time, my brownie is becoming blue. So the joke in my family, even 30 years later, is, remember when you made that blue brownie? So I made a blue brownie in 4th grade art, got a C. I remember my only C I ever got in my life was in 4th grade
Wow,
art, and
wow,
I'll
the
never forget
brownie.
it. And my parents were actually furious. The teacher, and I remember his name, it's irrelevant now, on my report card when they used to write comments, his comment was simply "try harder."
Mm,
And my parents went off on him, because who cares about a 4th grade grade, number one? B, who cares about an art? But to say I wasn't trying, it was just no. I just didn't have either the direction from him or the ability to do really anything more than that. Now, granted, making the brownie blue was, not ideal, but yeah. So like, I still have that memory for me of art as being such a negative experience.
yeah,
That when you
it
say, "Oh, these people can do things," no,
well, it's
I'm pretty sure I can't.
I
But
meant that I could.
but
It's
I'm
not
not
something
opposed to
that's like
trying. Yes.
it's funny how polarizing art is
Yeah.
in our
Hmm.
brains.
Yeah.
Like I said, there are a lot of people who are like, I am so excited to do this, and just about everybody else is like, I want to do anything but this.
Yeah.
It's I think people inherently understand how personal an activity it is, because your personality is on that canvas. The mood you're in today is on that canvas. Your whether
Sure.
you are anal or non-linear is on
Yeah.
that canvas. And I think people innately understand that, and that's why they don't want to do it and they don't want to share it. And people have this, I'm not good at it, therefore I shouldn't do it. But cave art is tens of thousands of years old, and
Mhm.
proof of agriculture is less than 5,000 years old. We've been expressing ourselves
Yeah.
way longer than we've been eating on the regular,
Yeah.
right?
Sure. Sure.
And doing
And
these things is so inherent to what we are as a creature. It helps with anxiety, depression, sleeplessness. As long as you think of it as it's something to do because it's good for you, not because you're good at it, because you will get good at it.
yeah.
Because
Well, it's
art
funny you
is
say that.
like
So this is pseudo art. So this is probably for an
Pseudo
art
art.
person, you're going to cringe probably. But
I never
so
cringe.
my you might. So my daughter's a freshman in college, and after a long day of whatever and the stresses of being on your own for the first time, she has an iPad, and her favorite thing to do at night, right before she goes to bed, is she has this app which is almost like a color by number.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
not familiar with the app. So that's her therapeutic time, like by
Mm-hmm.
herself, put your headphones on,
Yep.
listen to some music, and she does that. So the other day when she was home for a break, I'm just, we're watching TV together and she's doing it. And she goes, yeah, this is just, I love this. And like, she's creating something. I mean, she's creating what someone else has designed, but she's creating it. And then she said two of her friends started doing it on hers, loved it. They've downloaded it. And then now a bunch of them, this is their nighttime therapy to kind of clear their head before they go to bed. And
Zero cringe.
yeah, so yeah,
Zero
there you go.
cringe.
Yeah,
It's the art of, like I said, it's the art of the doing, not the creating.
yeah.
I mean, it is creating. It's
Well, at the end
making
of the day,
something
they have
that
this
wasn't there
beautiful
before.
image that was all black and white at the beginning,
Yeah.
and now it's 47 different colors, all these different shades. Yeah,
Yeah.
and she loves it.
When you are doing, your brain can't wander to the to-do list, and that's why
Right.
it's such a good shutdown
Yeah.
for her, right? It's
Yeah.
meditating with a parting gift, doing
Yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
And you
love paint
can.
by numbers, and I can draw.
Yeah. And do you consider? I know you're a fan of doing art. Are
Mm-hmm.
you a fan of art? Like, do you enjoy museums or looking at art, the history of art, or are you just more? I like to produce it, but I don't really.
Super great question. I'm kind of picky about it, and I
Mhm.
think because I'm an entertainer, I'm also a storyteller, and so I really enjoy the good story. So my favorite artists are the ones that have a good story, and most of them have good stories. But to me, the good story is tied to how much I enjoy the art,
Mhm.
and it's different for everybody. But that is a thing
Yeah,
for me.
it's funny when you go into like not even an art gallery, but if you're just in a store that sells art,
Hmm.
one thing you can look at a picture and it could be a really complicated picture, almost similar to one of these paint by number ones, but that's someone that really did, and it could be a
Yeah,
scene, whatever it is, and you could just see the specifics on the tree, the different shading of the bark or the leaves, and then the water and all this kind of
hmm,
stuff, and you can see someone put a hell of a lot of time into this, and it's beautiful.
yeah,
And then right next to it, you could see a white canvas with like a big red ball with a triangle coming out of it.
yeah.
And I'm like, all right, interesting. And they're the exact same price. And I'm like, why would anyone spend whatever, $2,000, $5,000 on a big ball with a triangle coming out of it? And that's what blows my mind, how some artists, that one I think I could do. So I talk about
Yeah.
me not having art talent. I'm pretty sure,
See?
yeah. So when I look at art and I say, if this is something I could do, to me, that takes away a lot of the credibility of the
Mm,
talent of the person. And
yeah.
there's so much of that art that is sold, or the one that looks like you closed your eyes and threw paint at a wall and boom, this is, and they
Abstract,
sell that.
right?
So I'm all for abstract, but I like abstract that you can see there's like put some effort into it.
Yes. Yeah. It's
And I
and
never understood how these people are very well known. They've made a ton of money, and I don't understand what they're doing.
and the story is the thing. So what they're saying with that circle and that square
Yeah.
is they're talking about either the balance of the positive and negative space around it, or there's a, depending on what that art is, there's a story behind why this is a triangle, why this is a circle, why this is red, why this is yellow.
But do
And the
you honestly
story,
believe every time there's a story behind it? Or was it someone who just said, hey, circle, triangle, this is kind of cool, done? I mean, does there have to always be? And I get what you're saying, and I agree with you.
mhm,
You
mhm,
appreciate it
mhm.
more when there is a story.
Yeah, yeah.
But isn't it possible that picture, and if you're looking at a story, you don't know that story. You don't know if that was someone who just said, let me put two shapes together, or there is a story about the relationship between spatial awareness and loneliness and all that kind of stuff.
Super
So,
good question,
but
because
isn't it sometimes
college
you're
me,
creating the story that you think that person? Let me take you back to high school English.
yeah,
And I asked a question to someone literally 2 weeks ago on a podcast, and it's kind of the same thing. When I'm studying a book that was written 200 years ago, and we're talking about the imagery and the themes of the book, do I necessarily believe that that author was thinking about those themes and imagery when they wrote the book? Absolutely not. In all cases, I think 200 years later, someone said, "Oh, here's the theme of this book. Oh, let's look at this imagery." and created the story after the story was written?
Super good point. Yeah, I'm not going to have an intelligent answer for that.
No, yeah, that's just how I observe these things. And
Right,
maybe
right.
I'm a little cynical with it because I'm not that creative type necessarily. It's
I
great to
beg to
know if you're
differ.
doing art, you have the story
Yeah.
behind it. You have the passion behind it and the reason, which is wonderful.
Part of art's story is how it hits you, the viewer.
Right.
And so the guy that wrote that about the 200-year-old story or art,
Yeah.
we're looking at his story and deciding whether or not we agree with it.
But that's when you know the story.
Yeah, yeah.
In a situation when you're in a gallery and you don't know the story, are you creating the story yourself, or can you accept art that there's no story behind it? It's just kind of cool to look at.
This brings up some of my art baggage. Art baggage is a thing, and I have it.
Hey, we all have baggage, yeah, of some sort. Yeah, sure.
I can't abstract. I once failed a sculpture class in college because the final project was supposed to be an abstract shape that was pleasing from all sides. I made a clown head, and she flunked me.
Yeah.
And I have art friends who say, you need to figure that abstract thing out because you're not allowing your emotions to. And I'm not negating that. I mean, do I look at some abstract and it brings up an emotion? No, that never happens for me. Not gonna
Right.
lie. But for a lot of people, it does.
Are you a sitcom fan, being in comedy?
Yes, yes.
Right. Everybody Loves Raymond?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. So there's a perfect example. And for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, the mom takes a class and she makes this thing that she loves. The dad's enamored with it, but doesn't figure out why he's enamored with it. And as soon as Ray and Deborah see it, they think that it's something highly sexually inappropriate. And they're gifted it and it's in their dining room. And every time the father walks in, he just can't help staring at it. But he has no idea why. The mom has no idea why he's enamored with it. The mom has no idea why they're grossly turned off by it. And then when they find out what it is, she basically, hilarity ensues. But that's a perfect example when you look at it.
Yeah.
And that's comedy, so that's designed for fun. But I think behind a lot of comedy, there's truth behind the joke.
Yeah.
And I think in that situation, there's truth behind that. They're all looking at this one thing. One made it innocently.
Yeah.
One, maybe because they have perverted minds looking at it one way, and the other two are like, this is disgusting, get it out. And I think that's what abstract art is, how you interpret things.
Yeah. There's so many good documentaries too about people who authenticate art, and turns out they were so far off, and they are as much of an expert as we have. Yeah. So yeah,
it's funny you say that. I'm fascinated by, and I don't want to get off topic here too much, but authenticators, and it's not just for art; it's for autographs.
Oh yeah.
And there's that one show, I forget. It's that show where the people go into the pawn shop to sell stuff.
Yes.
And I've never seen the show, but it comes up in my Facebook feed a lot, like different clips. And someone will want to sell a sword from Paul Revere from 400 years ago, and they have to bring in a Paul Revere expert, who suddenly is there 5 minutes later. How does he know it's a real sword? I mean, but you're relying on these so-called experts, but they have a lot of art people come in.
Yes.
And I guess there's some ways you can tell, well, the canvas, the parchment, the way it was framed, things that I wouldn't think about, the backing. But even if all that stuff falls into play, these people that are trying to hustle you, they know these things also. They're smarter than us. That's why they're able to do it. So how at the end of the day do we know, so the authenticator thing, I've never really bought into that.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it really is. And then the market for some of that art, it's just incredible. So let's move on a little bit because I am fascinated. So just to recap how busy you've been in your life: artist, comedian, business owner, kind of go with the artist. And since that clearly wasn't enough for you, you're now writing a book.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So let's talk about the book. Because as I said before, to me, sometimes you need a first paragraph or a title to kind of grab you into a book. And I can tell you right now, you've totally done that. So kudos to you. A for you. There you go.
All right.
A is for Aneurysm. Talk to me about the book.
I started it during the pandemic, and I started getting addicted to news stories, right?
Yeah.
And I came up with this idea. It's an alphabet book, not for
Okay.
kids, right? And A is for aneurysm isn't in the book, but that was my working title, and I just love it so much that I keep going. So the first little bit is prose about a little boy who's slaying imaginary dragons with his wooden sword in the woods, and a scraggly little ugly fairy jumps out and says,
Hmm.
"Hey, little kid, there's enough bad stuff going on in your world. Why are you wasting time on imaginary dragons?" And then she starts, A is for this and this and this, B is for this and this, and then just listing just stuff that will bog you down. And at the end, the little boy says, "I see what you're doing, but what about puppies and rainbows and kites? The more
Right.
attention you give to bad things, the bigger it gets. So
Right. So your
I'm
first
giving
A
my
through
attention to
Z are
little
bad
things."
things that you got to kind of worry about.
And then the little boy says, "I'm going to pay attention to good things." And the little fairy disappears, and he goes off on his merry way. And there's a lot of dark stuff, which I'm illustrating it right now. The
Nice.
illustrations are really fun. But the story around it is, and give attention
Now,
to the good things in your life,
does
because
the
that's what
kid then
matters.
redo A through Z with good things? Because the
Nope.
first A through Z, there's your second book.
Yep. Oh, yes.
There you go.
The follow-up. I love
The
it.
follow-up book is now A through Z of good things because, yeah, now the
Oh,
boy,
yeah. It was just so much fun coming up
I
with
now
that
get mentioned in
character.
your forward. If you do a second
You're
book,
gonna
I
get the
get credit for the idea.
thanks. You're totally getting the credit.
Yeah. So when the first one comes out, I want an autographed copy, and
Yeah.
then I'm going to send it to be authenticated to verify that it was actually you who autographed it. So just to kind of bring
Perfect.
this all full circle.
That is perfect. The autographs. My first trip to Vegas, and I know why I'm enamored with Vegas, because I love the Rat Pack. So at the
Okay.
time, my living room was done in early American Vegas. I had a crushed velvet mid-century couch and black velvet pillows with the fringe on it.
Yeah, yeah.
And went to Vegas to get Wayne Newton's autograph, and went from shop to shop, and they started calling each other to help me out, saying, "Oh, I heard that you
Yeah.
were in town looking for this thing." And the reason you won't find one is because he got in tax trouble here, and his fan club bailed him out twice, and then he moved to Branson. Vegas is mad.
Oh,
But
there
they
you go.
kept trying to sell me other autographs. It was
Yeah.
uh it was a funny experience. It was my first experience with
Well, it's
the
funny how
autograph
Branson, this little
world.
small town in Missouri, then became suddenly this entertainment capital.
Yes, yes, it is
Yeah.
funny.
I mean, my parents, about 10, 12 years ago, they went to Branson and had like 5 nights of like shows of like people I actually had heard of, like 5 straight nights.
Crazy.
Yeah. And like, why Branson? Like, who else
Why
would ever go to
Branson?
Branson? We're not talking Nashville. We're not talking Chicago. We're not talking LA.
Yeah,
That's crazy. But yeah, these people
yeah,
found a nice home there. And a lot of these shows there are kind of like residences almost a little bit. Like they're there, like year round.
really. So does it look like Vegas
I've
mini?
never been there, but
Is it?
I know, for
Yeah,
example, and it's probably more than 10 years ago now when I tell you like one of the acts I remember they saw. But like they saw the Osmond family.
right,
Not
right.
just like the Donnie Marie thing that was in Vegas, but it was like the Osmond family. Now it might have been the Osmond family without the two of them because
Mm,
they were the original act.
right,
But when the other two were like babies. But yeah, and I forget who else they saw. It might have been like, but like big names that I wouldn't want to see, but names you had
right,
heard of.
right,
Yeah.
right. Huh.
So it's
Um,
crazy how the entertainment kind of works like that. So
yeah.
when do you think the book will be done? And through all the, I know
I'm
once you're done with it, it's got to go through a lot of phases. So what's your release date goal?
My release date goal is hopefully by this fall. There are a
Oh,
lot
okay.
of illustrations that go in it. So and I'm working on it between all this other stuff that I do. So I'm hoping by this fall.
Are you independently publishing it? Or you have a company you're working with, or
I have had interest. So once put together a little mock thing, we'll see where it goes from there. But yeah, I've there are a couple of companies that have expressed interest in seeing how it
that's
looks.
exciting.
Yeah, yeah.
So now I know you said you still kind of do the comedy bit on the weekends, but is that something you'd want to pick up again to a higher level, or are you kind of right now really satisfied with the art as your what I'll call your career path going forward?
I super good question again. I
Well, that's my third good question. That's good.
I'm really enjoying going through life saying, I love everything that I do.
Yeah.
And people are like, do you think about retiring? I'm like, what? I paint for a living and I do fun stuff. What would I do if I do exactly what I'm doing now?
Well, when people
So
retire, they take up painting.
they do. They
Right.
do.
President Bush
Yeah.
retires from being president. What does he do? He becomes a painter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're kind of already ahead of the
King
game. So maybe when
Charles.
you
I'm a
retire,
lazy
like you'll
painter.
become like an accountant or something.
Oh, you know
You'll
what?
just do it backwards.
That would be the comedy thing to do.
There you go.
Go work at a bank.
That's your next book. My retirement as an accountant or something. There you go. I'll
You
just
need
come
to
up
be
with all
my
these
manager,
ideas.
Mike.
Yeah, there you go. I'll come up with the ideas. You put your humor behind it and you write it up. This is good. Yeah, this is gonna work out great. I'm excited. So A is for aneurysm. I'm gonna do B, C. I'll give you my own list, and then you can just
So good.
match it up
Oh,
with yours.
so good. Yeah, that'd be great.
Do you have 25 quote unquote bad things? Like an aneurysm would have been A. I know you've changed A.
Yes, more than 25 because some have 5
Multiple.
or 6. Multiple.
Interesting.
Yeah, but it's all done in prose.
Now X is hard. So the only thing I can think, well, no, maybe is an X-ray that bad? No, interesting. I'll have to wait and see.
Mine was X marks the spot. Don't worry about getting the treasure. IRS has already found it. That sort of thing.
There you go.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well said. And good correlation to me. There you go. Awesome. Tell us how we can kind of, get information on and everything you're doing.
My name is spelled super wonky, so I'm very Googleable. You can find everything I'm doing just by Googling my name, Anjl Rodee, Rodee. But my company is named Brushcapades. On the socials, I think I'm ANJLKR or Anjl Rodee. Google me. All the stuff comes up.
So you're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all that good stuff.
I like to call them in multiples: the TikToks, the Facebooks, the Instagrams.
Hey, if that works for you, that works for you. All right. Well, I'm gonna go look you up as soon as we're done. So it's always good to make a new social media friend. There you go. Listen, I really enjoyed talking to you. A lot of fun. I wish you nothing but success. I think your business idea is great. It's, I love hearing about different things, different ideas, and this one's clearly different. Like I said, these art places have popped up around here, but you've kind of, I think, taken it to the next level where you're kind of taking it on the road.
The why, and the why.
Yeah.
Why?
And I think you've added a whole other dimension to it, which I think is kind of that's pretty cool. A, because it's more accessible, and B, you're kind of doing it also with a message behind it. So you're doing it for the entertainment of the art, but you're also doing it with a, hey, expanding your mind kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think is really cool. But I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. And
it's super fun.
I wish you nothing but continued success.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you for listening, everyone. Have a good day.
Thanks for listening to Adeptus On-Air. If you like this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. The views and opinions by the podcast speakers and guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of Adeptus. This podcast provides general information only and is not intended to constitute advice.